So Andrew, how's the Foxes been since his win at York last week, and what did you make of the victory?
Well, the Foxes came back, and sort of immediately after the race, we were a little concerned that he'd had a hard race, obviously, but just took a couple of days to read how hard a race, and I'm pleased to say he sort of by Monday morning he was absolutely bouncing and ready to kick on again. So and that's been the case since then. So he seems to have bounced out of it quite well, and obviously I think it was a strong Dante. There were plenty of horses with huge potential in there, and although he won by a narrow margin, I think it was a good performance and gave us plenty of optimism leading towards Epsom.
And he's clearly improved a lot from the seasonal reappearance. Are you expecting another step forward at Epsom?
Yeah, well, you'd hope so. I mean, in the Craven, his first run of the year, he definitely tired. He travelled very strongly through the race, looked like he was coming through to win it, and then got tired. It was his first run of the year, and obviously he'd improved for that coming to York. How much more improvement we got from a fitness point of view, I'm not sure, but certainly the one thing I think maybe that could bring about some improvement is if he really relishes a mile and a half. If he does, that could see an improved performance again.
And when was the moment you thought you might have a star on your hand with the Foxes? Was it early on, or was it?
Yeah, the Foxes he was the most beautiful yearling, and obviously we had his brother Bangkok, so he was a very attractive, athletic yearling. Came into training, and early on we knew he was nice, and hence we asked Top for a name that was special to them, and the Foxes it was. So I'm glad that he's lived up to that billing for the time being at least.
And what sort of character was he like at home? What's he like to train?
Fox is just the most professional horse. He's been a star. He's never caused us any sort of anxiety in the way he works. He's always professional, good workhorse, very relaxed out of exercise. Just a lovely horse to have anything to do with.
And how confident are you that he'll be able to sort of handle the huge atmosphere at Epsom, and obviously the undulations on the track and everything?
Yeah, these are sort of the undulations and the intense atmosphere at Epsom is things you can't really condition a horse for until you turn up on the day. I'd be guessing, but I think he'd handle both the undulations at Epsom and the preliminaries. But I'm guessing. But he's that type of horse. He's very well balanced and has a very relaxed nature. So you'd hope he should handle both those.
Forecast looks set to be dry. What would be his sort of ideal conditions?
Yeah, well, fast ground is what we feel he wants and needs. Well, certainly no slower than good to soft. So the conditions won't be a problem for him. And obviously it was reasonably fast ground at York when he won. So that's not really a concern.
He came home very strong in the Dante. Are there any stamina fears as he tackles the step up and trip for the first time?
Yeah, the only stamina doubts I'd have probably are the fact that his brother, who we had and won a Derby trial and ran in the Derby, didn't stay a mile and a half. And he was by Australia. This horse obviously is by Churchill, who's a Guineas winner. But there are enough of Churchill's progeny now winning at a mile and a half that we feel that's not a negative. Certainly his full sister, who was also by Churchill, obviously won over a mile and 6, I think. So that gives us some optimism that a mile and a half won't be a problem.
And having only won the Dante last Thursday, what would his preparation look like between that race and the Derby in 10 days' time?
So the first thing was to get him to recover from that race. So obviously the trip to York, he had some fluid replacement. He's had an easy time through to this morning. He did a couple of routine canters this morning, and he'll probably do just a sit-up size on Saturday and probably again on Wednesday before the race. So there's really very little we want to be doing, but just sort of monitoring his well-being and trying to keep him in the same condition, or get him back to the same condition that he was going to York.
What does the Epsom Derby mean for the Balding family? What memories do you have of Mill Reef in 71?
Yeah, well, obviously the Derby means a huge amount to any trainer of a racehorse, I think. And obviously here, Kingsley's got a rich history of Derby winners. Certainly in the Victorian times, I think there have been 10 or 11 Derby winners in total trained here, but it's been a long time since the last one, which I think was 51 years ago. Mill Reef, who Dad trained obviously, he had a couple of placed horses. I've had a couple of placed horses since. So we've been sort of, you know, hitting the woodwork since then. But it mean a huge amount to everybody involved. And you know, you go every year with the hope that you get a horse going to Epsom with a chance, and you know, that's what we've got to enjoy at this moment in time, is the fact that we've got a contender, and we'll just keep trying to do that, and hopefully one day it will happen.
And where would the sort of foxes rank amongst your sort of Derby contenders heading into the race with this?
Well, we've had a Dante winner go to the Derby before in Bonfire, who was in Camelot's year, and he was very disappointing. He didn't feature in that race. We've had other horses, obviously, who've been placed at big prices. Kamiko was favourite for the Derby, I think, in 2020. But I think this is a horse that we feel, you know, you win a Dante, I think you're entitled to go to the Derby with a bit of optimism, or certainly hope that you're going to run well. And I think, you know, certainly in this horse, it was always the plan over the winter that we were going to target the Dante with a view to going to the Derby, and you know, half the plans worked out so far.
And King Power, obviously a huge supporter of yours. How excited are they to have a leading contender in the race?
Yeah, well, obviously King Power are a little bit distracted at the moment till Sunday anyway, and hopefully they can get the results they need on Sunday. But after that, I'm sure all eyes will be on the Derby, and you know, it's a big thrill for them to have a horse. This was the whole point of King Power Racing, was to be having horses feature in the biggest events, and you know, it would be a wonderful, you know, wonderful for the whole team if we can do something on Saturday.
And just what are your thoughts on the race itself? Who do you rate is the biggest danger on the day?
Yeah, I think it's a very, very open Derby. I think August Rodin has got to be, to me, you've got to put a line through his Guineas run. He comes from a stable who, you know, make a habit of winning derbies, and if he's their leading light, well, he's got to be the one to beat, in my opinion. Outside of him, I think there's any amount of about sort of 6 or 7 horses who would fit into, you know, have the same sort of credentials as the foxes. So, you know, I thought Dubai Mile, who actually beat in the Royal Lodge, I thought he ran a very good race in the Guineas. So that's always the best Derby trial, really. So he's got to be respected, and the whole, you know, the Chester Vase winner, and the you know, other horses that come into the mix. But it's going to be very different conditions, you know, with fast ground, that just what some of these horses have encountered recently. So it's a really exciting open Derby, which I think is, you know, is great for the race itself.
And just to line on Frankie, who obviously he'll be riding his last Derby, recently rode Sheldon to 2,000 Guineas success for you. Just how big a miss will he be for racing, and, you know, if you were to summarise his career if possible?
Yeah, well, Frankie's been, throughout my time in racing, my life in racing, Frankie's been a sort of omnipresent superstar, and you know, it'd be a huge void when he does retire. Just a brilliant jockey and a great personality. So you know, it's big boots to fill. And possibly impossible to fill, you know, because he's so unique in so many ways. But you know, I hope he'll go well in the Derby, but not as well as the foxes.
And final question: just how is Sheldon, and what sort of plans are there for him moving forward?
Yeah, he's come out of Newmarket really well. Very happy. He had a sort of quiet fortnight after the race, but he's bouncing back into fast work now, and all systems go, and hoping to head towards Ascot for the St James's Palace.
How's Sea of Roses ahead of the Oaks?
Yeah, Sea of Roses obviously ran a really big race in France earlier in the year. We went to York hoping she'd run very well. It just was really not run to suit her. She's a filly who really wants a, you know, stronger test. Stepping up to 1.5 miles will really suit her well. I mean, obviously she's got a fair bit to find with a couple of the first 2 in the betting. I mean, look streets ahead of the others, but she's just a fabulous filly to have in the yard, and her work's been very good, so we'll give it a go, and I hope she can certainly run a place.